Heavenly Father, today we put on the full armor to protect us against attack. We put on the belt of truth to protect against lies and deception. We put on the breastplate of righteousness to protect our hearts from the temptations. We put the gospel of peace on our feet to walk in your light, peace, and freedom with the Holy Spirit. We rebuke anxious thoughts. We take up your shield of faith for protection to block and destroy all the darts and threats thrown at us by the enemy. We put on the helmet of salvation to cover our minds and thoughts, reminding us that we are children of a mighty King. We are forgiven, set free, saved by the blood of Jesus. We take up the sword of the Spirit, your living word, that has the power to demolish strongholds and is sharper than any double-edged sword. We come to you, Lord, in prayer daily. In Jesus' mighty name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. I really appreciate the prayer.
Absolutely. Welcome to the imagination. I'm your host, Emma, and today I'm honored to introduce you all to Monarch, occult ritual, MK Ultra and Freemason survivor, targeted individual, skateboarder, energy art practitioner, nature and animal lover, mushroom hunter, gem and mineral collector, cannabis cultivator, plant medicine enthusiast, and another incredible male whistleblower stepping up to save the children, Éraic James Brown. Éraic was born in Cincinnati into a family with much historical confusion and inversion. Having been told he is a biological child of the parents who raised him, a DNA test later in life and other compelling evidence suggest that this story told to Éraic may, in fact, be a lie. Son of an adopted mother and a father who was one of 8 children and constantly surrounded by Freemasons and other secret society members, ritualistic and occult abuse was something Éraic endured as a child as far back as he can remember. Éraic has made some harrowing connections to his mother through her work as a nurse, including possible collusion with 2 different serial killers, and remembers being taken to a Knights of Columbus lodge as a child by his father. Éraic believes he has been part of a Druidic ritual throughout his life and also believes the final intentions of his abusers are to sacrifice him in a Wickerman ritual and cannibalize him. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. Although Éraic is still recovering his memories, the memory recollection he has so far led to some very dark rabbit holes that he is here to disclose and talk to us about today. And Éraic still isn't free today, which is why he felt compelled to speak up. Éraic is still being targeted and has experienced horrific abuses even in the past few years, including 3 specific events involving hypnosis. He has been made a targeted individual and experiences gang stalking as well as other targeting tactics that can be linked back to his family and their cult associations. It has only been about 6 months since Éraic has had a surge of memory recall, and today he is coming forward to share his testimony so it's on record and to add his puzzle piece to the puzzle. I'm honored to have Éraic on the show and ask that you please put down whatever you're doing and give this brave warrior and whistleblower your full attention as he speaks his truth on a public platform for the first time. We need more brave men speaking out, and Éraic is stepping up to help us continue to weave together this web of deception so we can make the world a safer place for our children once and for all. In Éric's words, quote, "It's like they created me just to destroy me, but I turned out too strong for them to succeed," end quote. And I believe after you hear Éric's testimony yourself, that you will all agree with this statement as well. To protect Éric's identity, we are disclosing his full name and actual information about him on the podcast, but shielding the title and thumbnail of the podcast with an alternate name to help provide a base level of public perception and protection. Before I finish introducing today's guest, I wanted to give just a couple reminders and updates. If you'd like to be on the podcast as a guest or share any information privately with me, you can email me at imagineabetterworld2020@gmail.com. You can also use this email if you'd like to be a part of my new book series featuring written survivor testimonies. And you can find the video with all the details on how to submit your testimony on any of my podcast platforms. And lastly, I'd love your support on Substack, where I've taken up investigative journalism as an outlet for me to share about my podcast, guests, and advocacy work. And you can subscribe to me there at www.emmacatherine.substack.com. All my links are in the show notes, and I'd love your support across all platforms. Thank you all for caring so deeply about survivors and for helping to make the imagination the safest space on the internet for survivor and whistleblower disclosures. So you guys, without further ado, please help me in welcoming today's guest of honor, voice for the voiceless, anti-child abuse, and survivor advocate, warrior, fighter, and walking miracle, the one, the only, Éraic James Brown. Éraic, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you. I'm honored to be on your platform to be able to share my story and hopefully give others some hope because I found your platform maybe 2 or 3 months ago. Well, maybe a bit longer, maybe like four, something like that. But I've gotten a lot of hope from watching other people's testimonies and whatnot. So I really appreciate it. I think it's really awesome what you're doing, really admirable.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be able to do this, and it's really amazing how healing it is, listening to somebody else's story of what they've overcome, and I know you have a really harrowing and yet incredible story that you've overcome that I'm really honored to add to the library of survivor testimonies. And it's really cool to finally meet you. I know we've been talking for a little bit, and I love how you got inspired by listening to other people. Now you're going to be able to take that torch that was given to you and you're going to be able to impact other people as well. So I'm really thrilled to have you here, and I know that our audience is going to get such a huge impact from listening to you share this information. And you have some really different things in your story too that don't get talked about a lot, including your birth and upbringing, and sort of the family history is a little bit different than most of the guests who go through what you did. A lot of them have a biological family that is typically, this bloodline thing, where your situation is a little bit different and really fascinating. It really goes to show all the different ways that this can happen, how inverted sometimes these family lineages and stories can get, and really like the lengths that people will go to keep all of this a secret, including something like who your parents could really be. So I would love to turn it over to you. And I would say let's go back before you were born and maybe talk about some of the history of these parents that you were potentially adopted into or ended up there in some other way. If there's anything that you want to share about them and their background, any grandparents on either side of the family, things like that, to sort of paint the picture of when before you got here and then leading into when you were born.
Okay. Let me think how I want to answer that. So my mother told me she was adopted. Um, I think she told me this when maybe I was around 9 or 10 years old, possibly 12 or something, somewhere in there. My memory's not the greatest sometimes when it comes to recall from childhood, and there's big gaps in it. Um, but yeah, she told me she was adopted uh, as a child, and she comes, or well, she was allegedly adopted by a family that, sorry, I might be kind of slow sometimes. I'm really kind of a bit withdrawn sometimes and still have like weird symptoms going on. And
It's
um,
okay.
there's not really a lot that I was told about my family's past. Very, very sparse information, to be honest with you. But on my mother's side, she was supposedly one of two children adopted. It was her name's Mary, and her brother Howard. But I recently discovered that their great grandfather actually is named Howard as well. So unless they named the adopted child after the great grandfather, then I don't know how common that is though. Usually that's biological. Um, yeah, and my grandma, they're like Catholic, at least crypto Catholic is what I call them because I know that they aren't. It's been like an incremental revelation and very, very elaborate and strategic in the way that they've done this. It's been a very, very slow unveiling of what's what's going on with me and that they are involved with this. And her my grandma her her mother, her adoptive mother's brother or cousin, I'm sorry, her adopted mother's cousin was also a cappy old man and never make eye contact with me or anything when he would come around. And I always thought there was something weird going on with him. But yeah, they were always pretty nice to me for the most part, but there was parts of like where I remember that they're being really mean and really like trying to traumatize me in weird, subtle kind of ways. Um, so yeah, and also too, at one point, my mom told me that her grandmother would eat raw meat, like it was a practice of hers to eat raw meat, and she was really vague about that. She just brought it up one day, just out of the blue for some reason,
Ooh.
and and yeah, that's about all I got on that side of the family, to be honest, about all really I know about the information. But
Any abuse that you know of on that side of the family that was carried down?
my mother told me at one point very briefly that she was sexually abused, but she never elaborated. And but yeah, yeah, she said she was. Um, as far as like my father's side, he's one of 8 children. To see that, like they've never like been like it's never out in the open, you know. They hide things in plain sight to get into the subconscious to communicate things with you, or through implication, subtle implications and stuff like that, subliminal messaging. But on his side, his grandpa or his father's brother was at one point accused of pedophilia of his 2 sons. And I know that to be true. Like, he was never convicted of it, but at one point he wasn't allowed to visit his children unsupervised. But you know, most of the people who do that, they don't get convicted of it statistically. So, but my father was always adamant that he was innocent. I'm like, how would you don't know that? But I could see that it's not. If you would see his children, it's kind of obvious, honestly, that they're experienced some type of trauma. But yeah, also too, like many of his brothers too would like bully me and stuff when I was younger, inflict pain frequently in different type of ways, like pressure points, or trying to overpower me and like humiliate me and stuff like that. My uncle at one point took some sandpaper, like a piece of sandpaper, and like took layers of skin off the top of my hand. I think I was maybe like 7 years old or something. And in hindsight, they did like the infliction of this pain is to create dissociative states. You know, they create dissociation and try to create alters and whatnot. Um, trying to think what else I want to add for that to that side of the family.
Do you know outright who was a Freemason or belonged to Knights of Columbus?
I don't. I don't. I suspect like it. So when I was a kid, in my floor we hit or in the house that we lived in my childhood home, my dad put the black and white checkerboard floor in the basement. You know how they do in the lodges? It's like a pretty common symbol of Freemasonry. And also to his nephew, I worked for at around age 18 doing masonry work. And my father also did masonry work when he was younger for his nephew's father, which goes by the same name. And when I was working with them, there was a guy named Glenn that worked with us, and he had like a Ku Klux Klan tattoo on his leg, and but he started talking about Freemasonry one day too, and he said how it used to be a requirement in order to be accepted or initiated into the Freemasons that you had to be an actual stonemason at one point before I guess they opened it up to the public. And it's like they'll say things for you to overhear it, and things that are going to stick in your subconscious for you to remember later and then connect all the dots together. And not long after that, too, I maybe worked for him for like a year, maybe only, but not long after like they said that, my cousin, I was in the truck with him one day and he starts telling me this story about this guy Bill that was my coworker. We were both laborers on the job, and he said that Bill went to prison or went to jail or prison at one point, and his girlfriend or his wife or whoever was, I guess, gotten pregnant by another person while he was locked up. And supposedly, when he got out and was released, they uh, delivered the baby at home and then sold the baby on the black market. Is what he told me. So, and in hindsight, I believe that's an inverted truth about me. Um, yeah, I do. I believe, but at the same time, like I stay very objective. I'm a very objective person. I don't ever try to jump to any conclusion. I'm very observant. Um, I've been very quiet my whole life. I haven't really been able to talk very well to people since until like the past 5 years. To speak very fluently with very select few people I would be able to open up to and speak comfortably with, just like as a friend or an acquaintance. But what I was gonna say is like I don't try to jump to any conclusion. So as far as like the about me questioning the validity of my parentals, or like the authenticity of that, it could be very well that they just implanted these thoughts into my head in order to send me on a wild goose chase so that I would look crazy too. So I always stay open to that possibility. But really, though, that's really irrelevant because it's still like they still did the ritual. Like, even if they are my biological parents, it doesn't change anything. The only thing that, uh, it would be an easy way to expose them if I can prove that, which I have gotten my 23andMe results back like in the past month now. And I have been reaching out to some of family on the opposite side of my mother's or I'm sorry, that would be on my mother's side. That would be her, the family that put her up for adoption, you know? Um, and I talked to one lady and she said her grandfather came from Ireland and there was pagans. Like she said there was pagans on or Celtics on her side. And yeah, it's still just like more research I gotta do. It's been really like kind of nerve wracking. I like I told my dad we gotta sit down and talk about it and figure it out. But really, I kind of wanted to get my story out there beforehand, just in case, because it's a massive conspiracy. Honestly, I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio. This is where like I've lived most of my life, but I've also traveled to the West Coast, to Oregon, Portland, Oregon, and also Seattle, Washington, where I lived for 4 years. And there's a it's like a conglomeration of different secret societies. So there's Freemasons, there's there's members of the OTO, which is the Ordo Templi Orientis, which was started in Germany in like the 1800s, I want to say. And it was I think or well, hold on. Yeah, so it's connected to Aleister Crowley, if you're familiar with him. Uh, one of the most well-known occultists, members of that, possibly members of something called the Horace Matt Lodge here in Cincinnati, which was an offshoot of the Ordo Templi Orientis and the religion of Thelema, which was Aleister Crowley's religion. And I guess the Horace Matt Lodge was like some lady here named Nima that was doing some type of experiment in time travel. And supposedly she went into the future and made contact with the collective consciousness of humanity called Naton. It was like an entity called Naton. And I guess their aim is to manifest this collective consciousness in the right way or make sure that it does happen. It's all really stuff that's like I've only recently, well, as far as like the Horace Matt Lodge is like something I've only recently discovered. And when I did, like multiple people off my friends list ended up deleting their Facebook pages. This guy Zeke Swango, who I told, sorry, this is like very out of order,
It's okay.
but it'll all make sense though. Like I kind of have to jump around for to make it make sense. But okay, I'm trying to think. I gotta stop here for a second.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing all of that. And of course, if you think of anything else to add, we can either do it when you remember, or this is obviously a little bit later in your life when you found this out, so we can, add it to a different part of your story. But before we move on to your birth, whether that was, with these parents or somewhere else, I
Yeah,
wanted to ask on the dad's side of the family, is there any history of generational abuse that you have suspected or heard of, or even seen or had mentioned to you at all?
not that I know of, but I mean, I would pretty much like, guarantee it almost because it's like it just comes with the territory. So I'm sure it probably did happen, but I have no knowledge of it. I've been kept in the dark about everything. I'm the odd man out. I've been called bastard multiple times, subtly. Like when me and my brother, I have a brother that's just like 1 year my senior. He was born April 85. I was born May 86. So really close together. And when we were younger, we were doing like some kind of little play or something, which is significant to theatrical performance and improvisation. And uh it's like a play, like actors, they act, it's like they've been doing acting and stuff. It's so obvious. They're like bad B actors at times if like in hindsight. But we were doing like this little play with like these little figurines, and my brother like called me a bastard. We were probably like 5 years old or something, and he called me that. And I'm sure they probably told him to call me that. I would imagine. I have to assume about a lot of this stuff, but like the way, like, I know in my heart that I'm right about probably 90% of it. There's some stuff that I might be a little off on, but that's really kind of irrelevant to the grand scheme of things. Um, but yeah, there was that time. And there was a time recently too. I was like working with my father, which I still do, unfortunately, because yeah, it's like yeah, he said it to me. He said he was like working on something and said it to himself, like like he was saying it out of anger or something. But then he said it again under his breath. In the place that we were working that day, this lady's house, we were redoing her dog rooms. She had a couple dog rooms, and or like mud rooms for her dogs with the doggy doors and stuff. it had the black and white checkerboard floor in there as well. And it was like an older lady too, and she was like trying to come on to me. Very, very strange. And because they've been like vampirizing my sexual energy my whole life. But just like yeah, all that combined with like as far as like the bastard thing goes, that combined with like the story my cousin told me and like the other time when my brothers said it. And in our basement when I was younger, there was a picture of my uncle when he was a child, and they always used to say, and there was a picture of me next to it too, and they're like, oh, you guys look so much alike, and this would be my uncle David, and he he's the one who did the thing with the sandpaper and used to inflict a lot of pain on me when I was a kid. And another thing he used to like to say too, just like for example, like if you asked him where like the TV remote was or something, he'd be like, if it was up your butt, you know, that's like a really sick thing to say. Like who would say something like that? And it was always something he would say, you know. And um, I never really thought much of it like when I was younger, but as I've like become an adult and um, developed really critical thinking skills, like yeah, it's all connected. It's all part of the subliminals that they drop frequently. Um, but yeah, they said I looked like him when I was younger, and I did. Like our baby pictures or our like infantile pictures or like kind of toddler adolescent pictures looked almost identical. And he doesn't have any kids either. He's like 65 or something. Never had any kids, so it wouldn't surprise me if he was my father or something. It's because I was sitting in my room one day and they are either using like telepathy or voice to skull technology. And this was like around this past Christmas. This is when I I started connecting all these dots kind of and realized like I had already known that something was going on, but I didn't know the depth of it or the fact that my family was involved with it. I thought it was a just different group of people that were connected to friends that I've had growing up. Um, and they told me I was conceived in some type of black magic ritual and that they raped me when I was younger. And it was like a stream of consciousness. It wasn't the same thing as you hearing your own thoughts or anything like that. It was like coming from an outside source for sure. I was receiving it. I was like receiving this flow of communication. So I don't know. I don't know if they're using the voice to skull thing, if you know about that, but it was something like that. Yeah. Um,
So let's go into, and you talked a little bit about one of your theories, which is what you had downloaded into your conscious through this V2K or whatever it was that was giving you that message that there was this event that happened with your birth.
yeah.
What was the story that you were told, like the front story? Like, what did your parents, did your mom have like a birth story that she told you? And then, sort of like, what are some of the theories that you've come up with or been able to construct about a potential or a theory or a gut feeling about what actually happened?
As far as like how I got into their possession.
Yeah, how you got into their possession, and then anything with your real birth, like who your real parents may be, or why they would have given you up, like anything that you have been able to construct about how you would have ended up with that family.
Okay, so if I did indeed come from an outside source, whether if I it's possible I could have my father might be biologically my father, but I'm not sure because it just shows like I have one cousin on his side that I did connect with on the 23, but that's like one of it has to be, I would imagine that we came like um from one of the eight. I guess there's different possibilities. It's very complex, you know, with like DNA and stuff. But so I'm like 70 something percent Irish apparently. I never knew that. I thought I was like German or something. I was still German and Irish, I think. Which my name actually has significance to this too. Éraic in Irish has the meaning of, it's a form of tribute or reparation given to someone for the penalty of murder or another form of serious crime. It's spelled a little different, but it's pronounced the name same. I think maybe like just to answer your question, sorry I'm jumping around a lot, but to answer your question, I think possibly maybe my father impregnated someone on from a different family, and then possibly they delivered me at home or something, and then gave me a or he took possession of me, maybe something like that, some type of undocumented birth of some sort is my theory, or my like, not necessarily, it's not my theory, but it's like something that um I've been strongly considering based upon everything else that has been unveiled.
And what about you mentioned this ritual that you were told about on a subconscious level. Were you given any information about that? Was it just the words and you don't have a memory? Do you have any potential memories or any recollection of something like that happening?
So like around so I'm trying to think how I'm gonna word this. So this is all something that I thought had started back around 2019. I met this girl like randomly on the street, but in hindsight, it definitely wasn't random. One of the first times we hung out, she asked me, "Do you have any rituals?" It was like one of the first questions she asked me. Actually, it's like daily rituals. I like to walk barefoot on the grass and do qigong and stuff like that. Um, Breathing exercises, stuff like that. But no, not really. I've never really done any type of elaborate rituals of any kind. And the relationship with her, I ended up falling in love with her or whatever. Um, she was like pretty much the first girl I ever had intercourse with, basically. Um, I'm trying to think. Yeah, the relationship was very chaotic. But that's to be expected, I guess. You know, I'd never really had a girlfriend before. So, but I mean, I'm pretty, let me see. Uh, yeah, like I said, like one of the first things she asked me was, "Do you have any rituals?" I guess. Are you gonna use the other part from before? I'm sorry. I'm sorry
Yep.
to. Okay, okay. So yeah, I, I I sent her a meme. Like I sent her a meme not long after I met her, and it was like a Patrick Starfish from SpongeBob. I can't remember what it said exactly, but it said something about being a witch or witchcraft or something. I can't remember exactly why I sent it to her either, but in response, she texted back. She's like, "I am a witch," and I was like, I didn't think anything of it really, because I think it's kind of cool, honestly, depending on what you're using it for, um, and your intentions. But then she would use gaslighting, which I'd never really experienced before, but I knew what it was. She gaslit me about that. She's like, I never said that. But at that point, I don't think I had the phone anymore. When I started to bring it up again to her, I was like, you told me that you were, because I started to suspect her down the road, like we were together on and off for maybe like 4 years, 2019 to like 2023, maybe something like that. 2022, 23. And there was another time in the car, I said something and she did it again. I was like, "Are you trying to gaslight me right now?" And at that point, I didn't really know. I've never really studied it that deep, but apparently I had read enough about it at some point in the past, enough to where like I was able to use that in the sentence like that. You know what I mean? Trying to make me question my own memories and perceptions of reality. Um, Also, too, like one of the first, like, well, it was like right when she could tell I was probably starting to develop feelings for her. She like, I was on my porch swing and at this house that I was staying at, and she sat down on the porch swing and she looked at me real funny and she's like, "Can I ask you a question?" I was like, "Yeah, go for it." And she said, she asked me, "How do you feel about me being with other people?" And I was like, "What?" Uh, she was like, "Oh yeah, I had these friends that went to this polyamory convention. I went to this polyamory convention with my friends and stuff, and I guess she said she used to be in like with them in some type of relationship, I guess. And but anyways, like the main theme of the whole relationship was like her like trying to make me like question if she was being uh what is the word, infidelity? I don't know what the other form of it would be for that um type of sentence. But yeah, basically like being with other people, like she asked me. And she really gaslit me good. Obviously, it's effective. It's why there's so many articles out there about it and people with their own testimonies about going through that. So it worked, you know, it worked on me. And we would just go back and forth on that. And I would, I guess, compartmentalize basically. Because she would go hang out with her other friends and stuff. And she would never allow me to come around with them. For I can't remember, like she said I shamed her or something like that, but is and she was like, I compartmentalize my friends. She's like, I compartmentalize my friends, you know, which could be like a double entendre, if you know what that means. Like she was saying what I think she was saying, because she inflicted a lot of emotional trauma on my too, like mental and emotional abuse. And uh it could also mean that she was inflicting trauma to compartmentalize me further, like, you know, continue what they've been doing to me my whole life. um but it got to the point where I started like, you know, I'm pretty like an investigative person. um I started connecting dots about her some of her friends that were connected to people that I knew, like a lot of people, like too much for it to be a coincidence. And I was like, "Oh, somebody sent you." And she always denied it. They're never going to admit to any of this stuff, you know? Like they take a oath, probably a blood oath. They're not allowed to talk about this stuff with anybody. Um, but from there, I'm trying to think how I want to transition from there.
Let's talk about what your childhood was like. So
Okay.
you were born potentially through this ritual event,
Yeah.
or another way. You end up
Yeah.
potentially in this family that's not biologically yours. What's your childhood like having, um, these two very different sort of background of parents and some of this, I guess, inversion that they've been inflicting on you? What was your childhood like?
So like during it, it seemed pretty normal for the most part. When I was growing up, I didn't think anything weird really. Um, but my parents were abusive, and my childhood, like we had a pretty average upbringing, middle class upbringing. We lived next to my grandparents as well, like directly next to them, or the next door neighbors on my father's grandparents. And so there was always almost like the whole family coming over, like a really big family. Because out of like the 8 children, there's like all the their children and the grandchildren and whatnot. Um, and over at my grandpa and grandma's house is where like a lot of abuse was inflicted, as far as like the pain and like uh physical violence, basically. Um, my father too, like I remember a time probably when me and my brother were like 4 and 5, or well, yeah, like 5 and 6 maybe. 4 or 5, 5 and 6, something like that. And me and my brother had bunk beds, and I remember we were sleeping in the same bunk one night, and we were just like talking or something, and we were just talking and laughing and stuff and joking around, being children. And I guess it was maybe later than they wanted us to be up doing that, I guess. But anyways, like my dad was like hiding at the bed, at the foot of the bed, like we didn't see him, and he just like sprung out of nowhere, like like a monster basically is what I saw him like at that time, and like beat us with a spoon, like a plastic kind of kitchen spoon, like stuff like that. At one point I called my mom a witch too, and I got in trouble for it when I was around 6 or 7 years old. I don't remember why I called her that. I remember I said it because I felt like she was being mean. I don't remember what specifically transpired though. And I got in trouble for saying that. I don't know why I called her that, or even what, or what, like exactly why, but like I just um in general, because I felt she was being mean. And I remember I got in trouble for it, and I was sitting up on the counter crying, and my uncle came in, and he was like he came in, he's like, "You called your mom a witch," or something like that. Yeah, he's like, my uncle David, the other abuser. Um, yeah, he's like, "You called your mom a witch." He's like, "You can't do that." But that's just like a little tidbit. Um, there was another time around that same time period when I remember my mom carrying me upstairs, and I was like in a daze or a trance. And in hindsight, this is something that always stuck with me. Uh, I believe I might have been drugged or hypnotized or both. Uh, and I remember her. She carried me upstairs and laid me down on my parents' bed. And the next thing I remember is just a dissociative memory. I was like face to face with the sun. It was like a dreamlike type of state, and I was like screaming in excruciating pain, I guess from the flames being burned and stuff. And I woke up covered in sweat. Yeah, I woke up soaked in sweat, and I don't think I even asked her like what she just told me. She's like, "Your fever broke," or something like that, which I guess is possible. Maybe that is the true story, but my true feelings about it is that I was sodomized and raped at that point. Because the dream was so vivid. I don't have any other memory of a dream that really is that vivid that stuck with me for that long. My brother too, he used to have like night terrors too, like screaming like he was being murdered and stuff. And that went on for years and years. He had those.
How many siblings did you have or do you have?
Uh, there's me and my brother, and then there was my half sister, Sarah, um, on my father's side from a different woman from his previous wife. And I visited her a few years ago, and she was like, she brought up witchcraft and stuff too, but just like in a subtle passing type of way. She's like, "Oh yeah, I like to go to the store to get all my witchy stuff." And like nobody in their fam, like they don't accept friend requests from me on Facebook. I've been completely ostracized almost. Like if we cross paths, they'll put the mask on, but I can see straight through it. I really can. Yeah, they don't. So they'll not even just not accept it, but deny them. Like, because if somebody denies your friend request, it'll say add friend again, instead of like pending or whatever. It's like, oh, denying. I never knew they had anything against me. It's pretty weird. All my friends, like, pretty like almost everyone, like has been a part of this since childhood. Um, I had a friend, Jake, too. Yeah. Man, I'm trying to think how I want to go from here. What was the question you asked me again?
Well, why don't, and to sort of like add on to it, so you talked about some of the abuse starting and what you're experiencing at home, with different members of your family. What other
Yeah.
locations were you taken to be abused? Was most of this in the home? Were you traveling? Were you in different locations? What do you remember about that aspect of it?
So as far as like the abuse and stuff that I have memories of is all just physical, mental, and emotional type of abuse. I want to add something too about something that happened when I was real young, probably maybe 7 or 8 years old, maybe 9. I was in Cumberland, Kentucky. We went to on a family trip with me, my brother, my mom, and dad, and then um, a couple of their friends. And I was I was walking with my mom at one point, just me and her, and she started acting real weird, like a completely different person. And it's almost like she was mocking me in hindsight. It's like she was like mocking me or making fun of me or just acting like a completely different person that I did not recognize as my mother. And I believe that was to like create a fracture of some sort or like some type of trauma because I was crying for her to stop. I was like, "Why are you acting like that? Can you stop?" She was scaring me, and she kept doing it. She wouldn't stop. And yeah, at points it was like she was mimicking me. It was really, really strange. Um, I guess she did stop at one eventually, but it's just like that stuck with me too. It was just completely bizarre behavior. Um, and yeah, like the physical abuse mostly was at my own home and then my grandparents' home on my father's side, where like my memories of it are. But as far as like the sexual abuse, I don't have uh any actual memories of it. But I I know that's what happened for sure. Because like when I consider that or when I when I accept that, when I put that piece of the puzzle in there, so much more of my life makes sense. Like based upon some of my own behavior in the past and things that I've done, like self mutilation when I was younger, maybe like starting around age 10, maybe 9 or 10. Um, I would like cut the tops of my arms in class and stuff like that. Not really deep, but just more like scratches, I guess. But um, also too, I touched my dog in a weird way when I was younger, and very disgusting and repulsive. I like masturbated my dog. I hope that's not too graphic, but it was around the time when I first learned how to masturbate, and I don't know why I did that. You know what I mean? I don't unless I don't know.
Just to let you know, I've had other guests come on and disclose similar things, which
Yeah,
suggests that the child, in this case, you may have been exposed to bestiality. That's a
yeah,
big part of all of this. And I've
yep,
had guests that specifically remembered events, and then other guests that had the same thing where they said, "Hey, I did some weird things with animals, and I don't know why, but this is why I think." So
yeah.
you're validating a lot of people sharing this. I know it's difficult, but you're not alone.
Yeah, it's completely embarrassing and fucking repulsive and disgusting. And but it's my story, and I'm gonna be transparent about it. And it's I think they've insinuated that's what they're trying to use against me as blackmail. So if I just admit to it, it has no power over me, you know. And I'd rather die than if see like as far as like they're wanting to sacrifice me, it's possible they're trying to initiate me to be a member too, because I don't know why they would compartmentalize me and split my consciousness if they're just going to kill me. But then I think because I was encouraged to like kill insects too when I was younger by several different people. It went from insects to small animals. So I think possibly they might have tried to make me a serial killer, and there's a lot more reasons why I think that that could be a very real possibility. So around like fourth grade, I was in a pageant. It was like a Christmas pageant. I remember we were singing a song, and I was like looking at the back of this dude's head, and I had a vision of shooting this dude in the back of the head and like his brain hanging out and stuff at like a very young age. Like I don't know where that would have came from. I don't know how I would even know something like how would I be even able to have a graphic visualization like that when I never really saw anything like that? Also, too, like that was just one instance, and another was I was around 7 or 8, maybe 9, and I put a belt around my neck, and I put it around like the bottom of my bunk bed, like one of the slats on the bottom of my bunk bed, just to feel like it would feel, and I like was like leaning forward, almost like testing to feel like what it would be to hang myself. And and what's interesting too about that too, the girl Claudia that I had met in 2019, I like was asking her what she was into or whatever, and she's like, "Oh, I like to have a belt put around my neck." I like she's like, "I'm into that," and I believe that that's connected because that's like anything a child does is learned behavior for the most part, right? I mean, children are spontaneous and have their own energy patterns, but like stuff like that is something that has to be learned behavior, I think. And I'm wondering if that's what they did to me. I lean towards that. Like they did something with a belt to me. Um, yeah, so also too, I was like encouraged to hurt bugs and stuff like that. My mom got me this little thing from a flea market called Metamora, and it said Metamora bug killer on it. And it was like this little a little log, and it had like a little dot on it. It said place bug here, and it came with a little hammer. And she's like, "Here, check this out." She's like, "I got this for you." You know, I don't have kids, but I would never encourage a child to get into killing life. Um, Also around other children too. Par- Friends of my parents, their children. This dude I went to school with around eighth grade who came from Toledo, like herding small animals like frogs and stuff like that. I shot a couple birds.
Do you have any memories at all in school of experiencing anything weird or anything abusive or anything that you look back on and be like, oh, there's that connection to you? Or was school kind of like an escape where you didn't experience anything that you know of yet?
As far as I know, no, not. There was never anything that really took place in school. I was always pretty withdrawn. Like I never really, like I said, I was able to connect with people here and there, like certain people, but then other people I just like I couldn't even form a sentence to if even if I wanted to. For whatever reason, I was able to connect with some people and be real comfortable with them. Um, More so self abuse in school. Yeah, more so like self harming and self abuse in school.
What age did they take you to the lodge? And what do you remember about being in there, the Knights of Columbus Lodge? And who took you? Do you know?
Okay, yeah, it was my father. He took me there. I don't remember what took place there. I remember him saying that we were going to be going there, and I remember sitting at a table in the lodge. He recently denied this too. Like they're pathetic. They're just like constantly trying to gaslight me, constantly trying to make like oh you need to go seek help. I have a lot of fortitude actually, and I'm very mentally stable person in my opinion at this point. It's been a long journey to get here, but I'm very level-headed person and very sharp and in tune with my senses. Um, I don't remember what occurred there though. Like the last thing I remember, I was sitting at a table there, I think with a few other kids playing a game, playing some type of board game or something, and then that's it. I don't remember after that. I'm sure it probably wasn't anything nice that occurred after that. Uh,
Well, it's always weird when you can remember going in somewhere, but you don't remember being there or getting out. You know, it's like an incomplete memory, but that's a very
Definitely.
common thing.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I'm sorry, I've been kind of jumping around a lot. It's just like
It's good. It's no problem.
there's so much information that connects to, like something that happened 3 years ago connects to something 30 years ago. You know what I mean? And it's only going to have significance when I connect it to these different events and memories. Um,
When do you suspect the Monarch programming started? And what led you to, did you have memories or what brought you to that place?
uh, the fact that, well, a few different things. So, well, my mom, she always would bring up monarch butterflies to me when we were younger, and she always used to say it was her favorite butterfly, which is a normal thing. People are allowed to have favorite butterflies. there's nothing wrong with that, but the fact that also too, I read some documents very recently that explains the Monarch program. They do use like a lot of the Druidic initiation rites these uh within these type of rituals. Um, it's something. It's not. It was a umbrella under the umbrella of MK Ultra. But it's something that's much older than that. It does connect with like going probably back to ancient Egypt. Honestly, um, but yeah, the fact that it's like the Druids use humiliation, hypnosis, trying to drive people to suicide, and with their rituals that I also read about. That was just from a document about the Monarch program, and I also read a lot of a book recently that I downloaded called that I just happened to stumble upon, which I'm good at doing that. I'm good at like stumbling upon the things that I need to connect these dots. And like I said, I told you in the email, my mom would always give me those connect the dot games when I was younger, where you would connect the numerical dots and it would form a picture. That's basically what my this ritual has been. They've been leaving little dots, and eventually I connected them. And but I read a book recently, well, not the whole thing, but a lot of it, about two artists from Ireland. It was called Arduous Trials and Tribulations, Spurious Freemasonry in Early 20th Century Ireland. And they talked all about this. I was like, holy shit, like this is what's been happening to me, like the hypnosis, the humiliation, the and like with their rituals, they're sometimes they do indeed cannibalize people at the end, and they will put them in the Wickerman and burn them alive, and then maybe I don't know, maybe eat the flesh afterwards, cooked. But they've been like with the. It makes me think that they were gonna eat me raw though, just based upon maybe they drain the blood first, probably to get the adrenochrome, because the hypnosis that they've subjected me to is like been some of the most terrifying experiences of my life. Sometimes they do that, but sometimes they'll go to great lengths. The Druids, the ancient Druids, they would go to great lengths to convince you that their intention is to kill you, but it was to build fortitude. It's like to build fortitude and see if you can, to see what you can withstand, basically, and pass you through the flames, as they call it, to initiate you. And then I guess if you're able to withstand this absolute humiliation of the ego, then they'll reveal, I guess, they'll initiate you in and teach you their secrets. But I have zero desire for that. I'd rather die, honestly, than join these people. So, um,
Who in your family or extended family or associates do you think, or have you been able to hypothesize, has connections to, say, the CIA, government, that could have got you into Monarch to begin with, slash MK?
oh, I'm suspecting like my grandpa and his brother on my dad's side, possibly on my mother's side as well. Um, my grandfather was in the military. Several other people were in the military on his side of the family as well, and they're right in that age group. They would have been in like their early 20s, right? And like I guess MK Ultra started in the early 1950s, something like that. somewhere around there, and I think went up to the 70s. So like they're prime candidates for that to have happened to them. And they there's been a couple different occasions where they did specifically name the CIA in a way. The first time was oh man. Well, I was just say this. My dad said it recently because this is before I knew that they had anything to do with this, when I still thought they were on my side. Um I was like I said something about getting rid of my phone because they've been hacking them, every single one of them. And following, like tracking my location. Um he's like, they're not the CIA. He said that. And he's like, come on, man, they're not the CIA. And that's really like most of the time they'll act like I'm just completely crazy. Like that's not nobody's doing that to you. No, no, it's not happening to you. um I can't be manipulated at this point though. Like, it's impossible, at least as far as that goes. Like they have still been manipulating me very effectively, honestly. Past 4 or 5 jobs, I guess they'll post job listings on Craigslist. It's like there's a massive amount of people involved with this. And I'll get a job somewhere and they'll start dropping subliminals almost immediately about witchcraft and Satanism, psychic stuff. And then they'll actually read my mind sometimes and say it out loud just to let me know. Yeah. I believe they're like kind of using the law of attraction or something against me. I know they got like my hair and probably blood and spit and other kinds of DNA, which is what they call tag locks, which they can use, I guess, and to to use to attract you to where they want you to go. Basically, should I add any more to that, or do you have any more? Um, I keep jumping around, I know,
Oh,
but
you're good. These stories always jump around. You sort of need to refer to the present or past, um, and present, or excuse me, and future in order to construct some of these narratives. Something like you said that was in the past might relate to something now, and you have to relate that. So don't worry about jumping around. It helps construct the story better.
cool. So I'm going to go back to when you asked me about when I was in school. When I was in seventh grade, well, so like at the end of sixth grade, I stopped going to the Catholic school. We moved from Coleraine, Ohio. It's a suburb of Cincinnati. And St. Anne's School was the school I was going to from first to sixth grade. And so in seventh grade, I guess age 12, 13, we ended up moving to a city called Fairfield, which is just like a couple towns north of Cincinnati. Um, so we went to public school at that point, me and my brother. And one of the first people I met there, well, I won't say, yeah, one of the first people I met there, the first year I was there in the seventh grade, I met a guy. So I was sitting, I think alone. I think I was sitting alone in the lunchroom. It was either like a study hall or maybe it was lunchtime. Maybe it was like the end of the day or some other occasion when we would sit in the cafeteria. This kid comes up to me and sits down and he's like, "Oh," he called me Wolfman. I remember because I had really hairy arms. He's like, "What's up, Wolfman?" And like, "What's up, man?" He seemed all right, seemed cool. And then I think the next day it was random. And then the next day, or like maybe a few days later, he comes over the house with my brother. But I never connected with him. That was like really our only interaction was that time at the lunch table. I didn't know his name or anything at that point. And yeah, like a few days later, maybe the next day, he comes over with my brother. He's like, "Oh, what's up, man?" I was like, "Oh, I just met you." And his name's Mike Webb. And his father works for Lockheed Martin. It's like a big aerospace company and defense, military stuff. Um, and I believe his mother worked for Procter and Gamble. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but it's a big corporation out of Cincinnati. She either worked for P- Procter and Gamble or General Electric. I can't remember exactly which one, but it was one of the two for sure. But we ended up becoming really good friends, like, well, pretty close friends. I wouldn't say good friends, I guess. He was never really a good friend. We resonated though, I guess, in certain ways, and I believe it was prearranged. Um, just well, think how. So okay, um, he moved to Hamilton, Ohio. He was living in Fairfield as well. Yeah, he lived in Fairfield as well. But then he ended up moving to a town called Hamilton, Ohio, which is right next to Fairfield. It's like the next town north of Fairfield, Ohio. And Hamilton's a really interesting place. Okay, so like I told you how my mom had brought up the serial killer's name, Donald Harvey. He was a murderer in Cincinnati. He was born in Hamilton though. He was actually born in Hamilton, and back in the 1950s. My mom at one point, I remember we were riding to a doctor's office in Buttermilk Pike, Kentucky. I remember I was probably around 13 or 14 years old. And I was playing with the radio. We were in the car. I was in the front passenger seat. And I remember she turned to me and looked at me and like smiled. She's like, "Hey, Éraic, do you remember, did, or did you ever hear about that serial killer that worked at Drake Hospital and was killing the patients?" And I think I had heard of him somehow. I can't remember though. I might not have. But anyway, she said, well, she either said, "Oh, well, I knew him." She either said, "I used to know him," or "I used to work with him." It was either one of the two. And she was like smiling when she said it. I remember. And that
And
always stuck.
your mom
That
was a
always,
nurse, right? And she worked at the
yeah,
hospital.
yeah, exactly. Donald Harvey was a nurse's assistant. And before he was caught for the murders, which is like 40 something murders, some people estimate a lot more than that. But before he was arrested for that, he was forced to resign from the Veterans Assistance Hospital back in the '70s at some point for stealing body parts to be used in occult rituals. And yeah, he would poison people. He would like put poison in their IVs and stuff. That was like his MO. And that always stuck with me because it was just out of the blue that she asked me that. Nothing prompted it. It's just like, why did she ask me that, or tell me that rather, or both? She asked and then told me. And so Okay, okay.
I'm just
So like,
bringing up a visual for people to see if they're watching.
okay, cool, cool. Yeah, very creepy guy. Very creepy guy. He said he used to have a list of names of the patients and have a black candle or something and sit and watch the candle of the flame of the candle, and if it flickered a certain way, that's how he would know which victim to choose. And he claimed that he was doing it for mercy killings. Like he tried to paint himself in a good light in the end, like, oh, I did it for people who were terminal, but that's not actually true, because if you really look at what he did, like one of the first people he killed was out of anger, is why he did it. He said some like somebody smeared feces on him or something, and he ended up coming back with a coat hanger and like stuffed it up somebody's catheter and killed him that way. Very brutal,
Oh my
obviously
God.
not mercy. So that's just, you know, probably just to make him look better, I guess. But anyways, he was from Hamilton, Ohio, born in Hamilton, Ohio, and there was another serial killer born in Hamilton too, named Thomas Creech, who he said he killed his first person in Hamilton at age 17, and then after that he started working for a satanic motorcycle gang, satanic cult, doing human sacrifices for them. And I think he did like five. He said he did like five murders for them, and I think he admitted to like 40 some 25 to 40 something murders, something like that. But uh also too, there's another serial killer named Glenn Rogers from Hamilton. It seems like, to me, honestly, it seems like it's I do believe it's the CIA doing this stuff, or they're subcontracted by the CIA. They subcontract people out, It's like a loophole, because the whole MK Ultra thing, they got in trouble for that somewhat. So I'm sure they just subcontracted out now. Um, so anyways, the dude Mike Webb that I was speaking about previously, who I'd met in middle school and became pretty good friends with, I guess, or close friends, and me and my brother for years and years, up until like 2018, something like that. The last time I saw him, he came over to my house and admitted to a murder, and said that he told me people were doing black magic against him. He said he went out to Colorado and somebody hypnotized him, did black magic against him, and he said everybody's been. He's basically like telling me what happened to me, and he yeah, he said it had to do with a contract. It was some kind of blood contract, and he said he shot somebody out of a car window, and trying to think what else he said. Oh, that last time too, he brought up gang stalking. He's like, you know what gang stalking is? I was like, no, I didn't know what it was at that point. And I think he briefly explained it to me or something, and then he just completely disappeared after that. Never saw him again. He's like in and out of jail now. Yeah, he looks crazy. He looks crazy now. And just recently, maybe back in October of last year, maybe November, something like that. Maybe it was past that. Maybe it was like early spring of this year. Or no, yeah, it was very recently. My brother, um, I was talking to I was talking to him about a bunch of this stuff and how I thought Mike Webb was involved in all this stuff that was taking place with me. And he said he was over there, like, I think one of the last times he saw him too, he called his mom a devil worshipping bitch. So there's that too, which wouldn't surprise me. I believe that it's true. But I believe it in like, so obviously like Satanism and paganism and like the ancient druids and stuff like that. It doesn't, they're different. You know what I mean? They're not like compatible. That's what's like so confusing about this, or like that's what's most confusing about this is like kind of how all that fits together. That's why I think well, like MK Ultra or the Monarch program, like they're involved with all that different type of stuff, Satanism, the ancient Druid rituals, the occult. I'm trying to think where I want to pick up from here.
You had mentioned
How
earlier that there are some things that would indicate to you that they were training you to be a serial killer. So speaking of serial killers,
Yeah.
what are some of those things that you've discovered recently that would indicate that?
Well, I think encouraging me to hurt bugs and stuff like that, and uh being around like the children of family friends who were also hurting small animals like frogs and birds and stuff like that. Um my my cousin, he shot a rabbit like when we were young. I was maybe 10 years old, if that. He shot a rabbit with a BB gun. My dad, he was like, "Oh, we have to kill that rabbit." He just shot it and hurt it. He's like, "We have to kill it now to put it out of its misery." Which I don't know. Like it could have lived still, I guess. I don't know. He said it looked paralyzed or something though, or like it was dragging his back legs. I can't really remember. I remember seeing the rabbit because he took it in our driveway and like put it in a 5-gallon bucket and hit it in the head with a hammer. It's very, I don't know, just very strange. And also to my father, he showed me a recording, a VHS recording that he made of himself on some news show that he called into at the time of when the whole Jeffrey Dahmer stuff, when he was arrested. And he showed me just randomly one day. He's like, "Check this out. This is me talking about Jeffrey Dahmer on the news." I don't remember what he said. I can't remember what he said on the program in the in the interview, or his call in or whatever. But that he brought up like Richard Ramirez to me when I was young. It's like, why it's like hurting bugs, hurting animals, randomly bringing up serial killers to children, and I don't know. It just seems like that's maybe what they were trying to do. It didn't work though. I've never killed anyone. Um, I've actually developed like a pretty decent, solid moral compass at this point in my life. It's been a long journey, but I'm comfortable with who I am today. And but yeah, that I was really considering that fact because, like I was telling you, that when the whole voice to skull thing, that occurrence happened, or the telepathy, whichever it was, um, they told me I was a failed experiment. I remember that. Yeah, they're like, "You're a failed experiment. We conducted you, or you were conceived in a black magic ritual." And I'm guessing that either they still are maybe trying to initiate me to make me be that for their group, or they saw that my morals developed differently and that it was a failure of what they're trying to accomplish, and now they're just going to maybe use me for a human sacrifice, adrenochrome ritual. um but yeah, that's basically it as far as that goes. And I mean, that's like pretty, those are pretty standard, like the hurting animals thing. And yeah, I met a kid too, like when I was in eighth grade, named Nicholas Wellborn, and he was from Toledo. He came to Fairfield though. He moved to Fairfield with his father, Bud Wellborn, and he was a very troubled dude. Like, um, he I became pretty good friends with him. You know, like we clicked for some reason. Obviously, probably because we were both very troubled people, and to me, it's obvious that he was abused too. He committed suicide at age 16 by hanging himself from a tree. And he used to say things to me when we were hanging out. And he used to say stuff. I didn't take it seriously at the time. I was young, you know, and just didn't think. But he said at one point, he's like, I just want to blow my brains all over my bedroom wall so my dad will have to clean it up. And he would like almost come to blows, like fight his father at times. There's obviously he had a deep seated hatred towards his father and stuff. And it's crazy too, like all these kids, all these children of family friends and all these people. I believe this dude was connected to it too. I believe he was Freemason or Satanist from Toledo. And okay, yeah, all these basically they all these kids would masturbate around me. They would put on pornography like very young age, like when the dial-up computer was still around. Like my friend Jake, he showed me porn, and like he was like, this is how you masturbate basically. And it happened multiple times with multiple different people. And yeah, it was crazy. It happened with Nick Wellborn one time too. He did it, and he like put on some porn, and he like started doing like some homosexual type of stuff where I mean, he was like leaning on, like spreading himself open on his bed. And I was like very weirded out by it. But yeah, he hung himself at age 16, and he incredibly troubled person. Like he was like all had all kinds of stick and poke tattoos he had done on himself at a very young age, and a lot of self mutilation too, self harm and stuff like that. Um, and to connect that with another another incidence of a person named Nick, I was told, who hung themselves when I moved to Seattle. The student Nick, I think his name was it was a Hispanic last name. I think it was Diaz or something like that. But it doesn't matter really. But I was told he had hung himself too. Synchronicity. So like synchronicity is a big thing for these people. And I notice them naturally a lot where it's not manufactured, but there's been a ton of it where it's completely manufactured, and they do it for whatever reason. I don't know the reason that they do it, but I didn't start noticing them very much until like, okay, so like I told you, the guy Mike Webb, the last time I told you when I had seen him, he said he had he admitted to a murder, or said he had murdered someone. I don't know if he really did it or not, but um, he was bringing up 11:11 a lot. He's like, "Oh, every time I look at the clock, it's 11:11." He's like, "Every time." And it's like, I didn't really think much of it at that point. That was like 2018, around 2017 or 2018, something like that. And I started noticing them a lot after that. People I would know, people I know would be in the same place. I'd cross their path randomly, the same place at the same place, same time type of thing. Like, hey, what a coincidence. Um, but way too many times for it to be a coincidence, you know? Like a couple times, yeah, but like dozens and dozens and dozens of times, it's a pattern, you know? Obviously. But I do notice them naturally too. Like for instance, I was thinking just 2 days ago about my friend Jake. It was either in second or third grade. We were doing some type of creative writing exercise, I remember, and he brought up something about a blue duck, like a blue colored duck. And then the very next day, I like wash my clothes at the laundromat, and like there's this little tiny little plastic blue duck sitting there, right next to the washing machine that I chose. I looked down and it's right there. I took a picture of it. Really bizarre, but it's just I guess it's just part of the patterns of nature. But they were doing it. I guess maybe I don't know, because I was bringing it up to somebody who I thought was a friend up until recently. I was bringing that stuff up to him about synchronicities, and he was like, "Yeah, just I wouldn't give it too much thought. You know, that stuff it can kind of drive you crazy. Like for instance, like the girl Claudia, who I had met and spent a good deal of time with over a few years. She was like she said her brother had like sexually molested her dog too. I never told her about this stuff. Like you're the first person who I've ever told this stuff to, most of it, the majority of it, but she said that too. And it's because they know that I did that. They probably have it on hidden camera or something, I would imagine. And that, like, when I did that, it took place for maybe a month or two occasionally before I like snapped out of it. Ah, man, it's been really hard to live with that. Super hard to live with that, and like horrifying, honestly. But I've come to terms with it. You know, it's like it's something that happened. It's something that I did, but it's something that I was able to like stop doing out of the fact that I looked at what I was doing and asked myself, like, what am I doing here? Like, what am I doing? Like, this is crazy. Uh, and sick, you know, really crazy and sick. But there's just so many instances of that. There's countless instances of just, you know, the synchronicities and also too, like I also feel uh or something that's been really hard to live with too, like the my friend Nick I was telling you about, who hung himself. He was over at my house um one day, and he like started smacking my dog, and I remember feeling angry about it, and I didn't want him to hit my dog, you know. But this dude like bullied me sometimes. We were friends, but he bullied me at times, you know. Um, he was a lot bigger dude than me. I'm pretty small. Um, always was kind of picked on and bullied throughout school a lot. Um, uh, I started like what after like while he was doing that, I wanted him to stop doing that. But for some reason, I said that's not how you hit a dog. I said here, and I started smacking my dog too in the face, and too hard. I smacked him too hard, man. And he eventually started having like periodic seizures, like epileptic seizures, like here and there when for the rest of his life, basically. It's really hard to talk about. Like that's actually how he ended up dying was like from one of those seizure episodes. And yeah, that's just something that's been really hard to live with. But around, I'm gonna say age 15. Well, no, I was later than that. I think I started dabbling with mushrooms and stuff when I was like 18, 17 or 18. And it allowed me to, I guess, look at some of my past behavior and allowed to change it or change who I am and just be a more positive force, I guess, a more positive force in the world. I gained empathy. I would say I'm pretty empathetic at this point. And I don't even kill bugs or anything anymore. Like I'll barely swat a mosquito. Like I will here and there still swat a mosquito. But I don't even like to do that, honestly. I like to just shoo them out, get them away. Um, yeah, I have zero, like, the only urges I have of violence anymore are towards these people who committed these atrocities against me. And even that, like, I have zero desire to do that. It's like their urges, which I think is quite natural if you've been violated in such a heinous way or so many different heinous ways throughout your life for your entire life, you know. Um, I think it would even be natural to act on it, but I'm not gonna act on it ever. Like there's nothing anybody can make me do, or there's not anything anybody can do to make me harm them in life unless they're actively trying to attack me, you know? I'm a different person than I was for sure. Um I'm trying to think how where I want to go from here.
Well, if I could just say thank you for talking about some of these like vulnerable, more taboo things. A
Yeah,
lot of people, I think, experience this, and it's so shameful that they don't ever share it with anybody, and they think they're weird or they think that there's something wrong with them, when in fact, like how you're doing, if you tie it back to abuse, there's usually always a subconscious reason why a child or a young adult would do something, whether it's violent or sexual, that doesn't make sense. It's usually because it's not the child just creating that out of their brain and doing it, or the young adult. It comes from somewhere in childhood, like you said, a learned behavior, or something that they, trauma that they're reacting to.
absolutely. Yeah, I agree. I think let me think when my rage, like my unexplainable rage towards my parents, or I wouldn't say rage, it's more just it might have, I guess deep down it maybe was, but I just would like talk to them so shitty sometimes and just be like, just have this resentment towards them. And I never knew where it came from, really. I never really understood where it came from. Yeah, that went on for years and years. Or it wasn't like a constant thing, but it was frequent enough for it to be regular, I guess you could say. I remember at one point, like I was right for let me think, I was probably 16 or 15 or 16. I got into some type of argument with my dad or something, and uh I can't remember the subject. It was something not serious at all. It wasn't anything serious at all. It was like something stupid and trivial, but for whatever reason, it I like uh I go into like these hypomanic states of just like outrage basically. And I jumped up and like dove head first into the ground, like into the it was carpeted floor, but it was concrete underneath the floor, and I knocked myself out unconscious. And it was really crazy. I could have broke my neck or something in hindsight. Like I could have easily died by doing that. I couldn't believe I actually did it. And trying to think of another instance. Um, Sorry, I'm kind of stuck for a second here.
You're okay. There's a lot to remember and a lot to say about all of this. So you're doing really good. And I know that it's also traumatizing to relive talking about this. Very emotional. So you are doing awesome. Um, is there anything else during your teenage years, um, whether in school or out of school, that was significant to, I guess, the abuse aspect? Was there anything else that you had gone through that you remember?
Okay, well, um, just like mainly like bullying from like I told you my friend Mike Webb moved to Hamilton at one point after he lived in Fairfield, and there was a bunch of like a group of kids down there we used to go hang out with, and like they would like bully me and stuff like that. A lot of bullying, humiliation, like yeah, just for no reason, you know. I guess just because they could do it, or because it's like a part of the ritual, and all these children are programmed children of families that are also involved with this extensive, elaborate ritual. Um, Also, too, there was a guy named Danny Redenhauer that he was a bit older. He was like probably 10 years older than us, maybe even older. And we were like 14 or no, probably 15 or 16. Yeah, like 15 or 16. I remember Mike Webb telling us that he was like, "Oh, Danny," he said he was hypnotized when he was on LSD and somebody put a chip in his head, which seems significant to me. And honestly, I think they could possibly have been talking about me because I do have a scar that I've just recently noticed on this left side of my head. Yeah, I don't know if you can see it. I'll try to show, but there's like a small little like incision of some sort. It appears to be there's scar tissue there, and I have zero memory of ever like having my head cut open or busted open there. I've never busted my head open in general. And also too, like the top of my skull, like where the babe, like where where it would close, like when you're a baby, where the soft spot is. It like kind of, it seems like there's something off a little bit up there. It kind of comes to like a point. Maybe that's naturally how it closed up and healed up or whatever and formed. But yeah, I suspect I could have like an RFID chip in my head, and I've been thinking about, like, I need to try to figure out how maybe I can use a scanner of some sort to maybe locate if that is indeed true or not. But then again, like, it could be just something that's been implanted for me to have these suspicions, and that I'll talk about it with somebody, because most people are going to think that's is crazy, but they do this type of stuff, like these cults and MK Ultra. They do put RFID chips in people's head. And the girl's Claudia, who I met in 2019, her father was the head of the neurology department at the University of Cincinnati, and he actually worked. He did something with like brain implants, some type of deep brain stimulation, and on one of the occasions that I was hypnotized, it was actually the first time in recent times, anyways. I'm sure they've been doing it to me my whole life.
And when was this time, as far as a date? How
April 22nd, 2020. Or hold on, was it 2020? No, it was, hold on. It was 2022, I think. Yeah, 21 or 22. I think 22 though. I'm pretty sure. I could go back and check for sure, but the first time it happened was at uh, a place called Hannon's Camp America. It's a private campground just north of Hamilton in a town called College Corner, Ohio. And so it was for an event called St. Alfonso's Pancake Breakfast on April 20. It was April 20th or 22nd. I can't remember. I think excuse me, the 22nd though. And I was invited there by this dude, Daniel Path. And so I could tell when he invited me, like, I could see straight through people, but I'm just like, it's taken me a while to believe it. You know, I would go against my better judgment, and it's foolish in hindsight, but you live and you learn. But he's like, hey, he's like, what are you doing? The 22nd. It was really weird, and just kind of his whole energy was off when he asked me, and I could tell, like just the look in his eyes and stuff. But I ended up going, and it's a music festival. It was just a one night event. It's an overnight thing, and they I had took some LSD, which I've done hundreds of times. Like, it's like it can be very therapeutic for me. I have a lot of fun with it, and that's like therapy to me, to laugh. Laughter is like very much medicine for me. And music shows and stuff like that. This is a place I'd been to multiple times before that as well. And in hindsight, like the time before that, yeah, the time before, like the time I went before that, like the last time, they were doing it a little bit too, but it was just like a little bit. They were like just kind of playing with me a little bit. It wasn't near as pronounced, but I remember, like, when yeah, they were just playing with me the time before that. But anyways, like, at the pancake breakfast thing, um, and I figured out in hindsight, it's a technique they use called sleight of mouth hypnosis. It's also called conversational hypnosis, and they use I guess like offering someone something like uh was Daniel. He gave me a pan. He was like, "Here, try this pancake. It's got some butter my friend made. That's a lot stronger than the stuff they had there. It was like a cannabis type butter." And I took it and ate it, and uh I think what did I went and like laid down in my tent. I had a tent there. I went and laid down in my tent by myself, and I could feel something was happening. I was like, something was happening when I was laying in my tent. I thought it was gonna be some kind of. I thought I was like gonna have some type of deep spiritual experience, personal to myself, because I had not felt that way before. Really, it was something completely different than the effects of the chemicals, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go with it, and for whatever reason, I was like, I got to get out of this tent. And I walked back into the barn where they're playing music at. And that's when it kind of fully kicked in, the hypnosis. Well, this dude came and like shined a flashlight in my face when I was walking back from my tent towards the barn. He's like, "Hey, you!" Like startled me, like purposely startled me, and um, and I remember I was scared. I thought it was the police because I had sold this kid some a piece of acid from like just maybe like an hour before that, and it was the same kid. And he was like, "Hey," he wanted more, I guess he was saying. But when I got into the barn, uh, Daniel was like looking at me. He's like, his eyeballs are like completely like I could see the whites on all corners of his eyes, and it was very much like I don't know. He had like a very trance like look in his eyes, or like a hypnotic type of look. And like everybody, like there was probably maybe 30 to 30 to 50 people in this barn, and I could like almost all of them. It seems like would turn and look at me, and then at the point where it kicked in the strongest, like that, like multiple people turned and looked at me at the same time. And I knew at that point, I was like, what did you guys do to me? At first, I thought they dosed me with something. I thought they might have put something in the pancake. And I was like, what did you guys do to me? But because at this point, like, uh, I was like, yeah, you guys did some type of sorcery or something to me. And I was completely terrified at this point because I thought they were gonna murder me here because at this point, like throughout the relationship with the girl Claudia I had met, uh, I guess she had like a Santa Muerte book, if you know, it's like it's a Mexican folk religion. It's like they do human sacrifice and stuff. I guess some people do, like some practitioners of it do practice human sacrifice. And she had a book about it, And I think the reason why she had that book and showed it to me, because like not like a few years before I met her, I was like kind of researching some of it based on something I had read, something random, I can't remember, but uh so and that's what I looked it up on my phone. So I'm thinking they saw me look that up on my phone and then they used that and got a book and then showed it to me, because by the end of that relationship with this girl, I was like, I figured I was like, okay, like I said, I told you I thought she asked me if I had any rituals when I first met her. So by the end of it, I knew that it was some type of ritual that they were doing to me, and I thought it was to do with human sacrifice. And I'm like, you guys are crazy. You guys are obviously like planning to kill me or something. And she started stuttering and stuff, and so they like yeah. So back to the event, the pancake breakfast where I was under hypnosis. As soon as I was under the hypnosis, like, okay, she's friends with all these people, because I know she knew a lot of people up there too, because she's kind of like a hippie girl too. And I was like, oh my god, this is all an extension of the ritual. And I remember it was like an electromagnetic pulse that started like slicing through my body. It felt like strings. It felt like um and I was like hallucinating, like my blood splattering all over the floor. It's like some type of hypnotic hallucination, but there was a physical, like electromagnetic type feeling where it felt like I was being sliced by like strings, like where my it felt like my body had been sliced in different directions. And that I'm sorry. There's like people over here. There's like a trail,
It's okay.
but um yeah, it was like it felt like my body was sliding apart, and I was like, "Are you guys gonna kill me?" And I was like, "Or am I already dead?" I was like, I thought I was a spirit or something at that point. I was like, "Am I already dead, or are you guys gonna kill me?" And at this same time when all this is going on, the band on on the stage, they're called Mind at Large, which is like I think it's a term that Aldous Huxley came up with, who wrote The Doors of Perception, a book that was based upon mescaline. And it's like collective consciousness. It's about like like a collective consciousness thing. But anyways, it's like they were all collectively reading my mind, and somehow like it was like, yeah, it was like group telepathy, and they're like whatever thoughts that were going through my head, the music was perfectly like changing to whatever I was thinking at the time. Very, very crazy experience. And after that, he was like, come sit in the car with me, man. Come sit in the car with me." And I didn't want to. I was like, "No, I'm not sitting in the car with you." So I was like, at that point, I was like ready to dip out. I was ready to run, which I eventually did. I eventually just ran off the property and slept somewhere else at night, like on some random person's farmland. It was really cold still at night in early spring. And but the reason I ran those, because I mean, I probably would have if all that was going on. But then I was like, when we were sitting in the car, he had there was like he brought his wife in there with him, one of his kids. I think he's like 15 or something. Um, And then someone who uh he introduced us as brother. He's like, "This is my brother, man. You've never met him. I don't think this is his real brother though." And they what did he say? He's like, "We're about to go on a trip," or he's like, "Buckle up, you guys are going on a trip." I was like, "Oh, geez, where are you guys gonna take me?" But I wasn't gonna just let them take me. If they were gonna try to take me somewhere, I was just gonna, do what I had to do. But one guy, he's like, "You got the loppers with you?" He asked Daniel that, like, and to me, that was like sounded sounded like what are loppers or something that you use to, I guess, cut. They're like cutting tools or something. So that was obviously very terrifying. And when we walked back to the barn after that, I was like, I gotta get out. I can't sit in here with you guys. I gotta get out. We got out of the car and we talked for a little bit. Then we went back up to the barn and we're hearing more music. And then they started doing like these ritualistic type of dances that it seems, like all this stuff is based upon like the ancient mystery religions of Babylon and Egypt and stuff like that. And it was obvious to me that they had invoked some type of spirit to be able to move in these type of ways. It was just I've never seen anyone really move like this before. It was just so like flowing and yeah, it was just something different than I've ever really seen before. And it seemed like it seemed like they invoked some type of spirit of some sort. But at the end though, they stopped playing music, and then Daniel's uncle Mark Path, he was like, "All right, now let's go take and chop them up in the woods." He like said that they already knew I was like terrified, and he said like the music stopped, and they said that, and that's when I just ran. I was like, "Nope, I gotta get out of here." Because it's a very secluded place. It's like pretty secluded. It's like private property, and they shut the gates. Nobody else can get back there. Nobody would really hear you. They got very loud music, and but after that, like I, the next day, I was like, I didn't know what had happened. I didn't know it was hypnosis. Um, it wasn't only until the next time that it happened at that same place at a different festival, maybe 2 or 3 months later. It was July. It was called the Geek Out Festival. And it happened again. It happened again. And I was like, holy shit. That because at first, like when it I was like second guessing it a lot. I was like, was that I just kind of going crazy or something? Or did I just have like a weird reaction to the chemicals? But I knew like I didn't know like I said, when it first happened, I was like, you guys did some kind of sorcery. Like this is they did some type of potent sorcery, is what I told them. I was like, I said that to them. They denied it, but it happened to me again. Yeah, at the Geek Out Festival, and this is all connected to like the Grateful Dead and stuff too. Um, and because there's like several different kind of underground organizations involved with them, and also too, he brought up Moloch too. I forgot. Daniel, the first time this happened, he brought up Moloch too when we were sitting in the car. It's like brought up Bohemian Grove and Moloch, and that was I think to give me the to put it in my head that they were gonna sacrifice me, do a human sacrifice. The second time it happened was at this festival here, Geek Out. Yeah, it was in June. Or it might have been July the previous year. I can't remember, but it doesn't matter. The second time it happened, the telepathy happened again. on the DJ table, like um the Ukraine flag, like the yellow and the blue. They had it set up to where it blinked yellow and blue right when I thought about her. Right, or right after. It was like simultaneous, basically. Like it's yeah, it's really crazy. It was really impressive, honestly. The technology that these people are using. They were also using something called parametric speakers during this time, which is like a way to throw sound. They're like also called directional speakers. So you can aim these speakers in a certain range, and the only people who are going to hear these certain frequencies are the people that are standing in a certain at a in a certain position or a certain location. So it was like they were like throwing sound behind me, and I would like look behind me. We're in the middle of an open field. There's no speakers or anything behind me. It's literally just a grass field. There's a lot of other people around and stuff. But yeah, it's really, really, really crazy how they did this. Like it went on like this dude he did his whole set, his whole DJ set. Literally, like I don't know if I was the only one hearing the stuff that was like catered to my consciousness, like what I was thinking at the exact same time. But it was literally his whole DJ set. And it's like, oh, I love trying out new material at Geek Out, is what he said. I remember that. And the dude who was the DJ was a good friend of Claudia, who I met in 2019 and dated and fell in love with and whatnot. So it's just very advanced technology that these people are using, just completely mind blowing. It probably should have drove me just completely off the edge, but at that point I was like terrified, but I started trying to like uh I calmed myself. I was able to calm myself. I sat out on the ground. I just sat out on the ground and kind of sprawled out and just basically defeated, but also just like yeah, I was mind blown. I was really, really mind blown. And I still am. I still am about it. It's just I didn't know something like that was possible for to take place. And a lot of the people up there are involved with this too, with involved with whatever this network is. Um or I mean, yeah, or it's like different organizations or different groups that are interconnected, or they're all in the same one. It's probably all the same one, I would think. But um, the next day after, well, let me see, like that time, I slowly walked to my car. I was completely terrified because at that point, I'm thinking they're gonna murder me. There's some like my friend David, who I keep saying these people are my friends, but I'm just saying that so it's easy to understand, but they're really not. Um, he was like holding his waistline, like looking like he had a pistol, like he had a gun or something under his shirt. He's like standing there next to me, and all like just a bunch of different people staring at me at the same time. And I'm like, you know what? I was like, I'm out of here. I was like, he's like, are you sure, man? Like, you shouldn't. And I was still under the influence at this point, but I'm very able to navigate these types of states of consciousness and still be pretty much like appear normal, honestly, and function pretty well if it's within a certain amount. But I just slowly walked to my car, completely terrified, inflicted with fear, pure terror, actually. Yeah, just horror. And I ended up making it home. And the next day, though, I was like, it, the hypnosis popped into my head. I was like, that's some type of hypnosis that they did to me. Because David too, he like gave me some he gave me something to eat or something. He was like, here, or it was a funnel cake. Actually, he gave me a funnel cake. He's like, here, I don't want any more of this. Eat it. And I took it and I ate it. And um, but yeah, I ended up figuring it out the next day what it was, the conversational hypnosis and um conversational hypnosis and yeah, the sleight of mouth. It's the same thing, but I managed to find it the next day. I was like, okay, I figured out exactly what they did to me. Yeah, anyways, I ended up figuring it out, the hypnosis. I'm trying to think of where to go from here next. Oh well, I guess I could go to the next time I was hypnotized,
And
which
when,
was
what was so the first one happened in 2022. When did this one was that year also?
3 or 4 months after that. Yeah,
Okay. And then,
at the same place. Yeah, at the same place.
okay.
Um, yeah. So then I think the next one was when was it? I want to say it was. I don't know if it was like just a few months later after that, but it wasn't at the same place. This guy Michael Markowski, who I met, real into the Grateful Dead and stuff, and I never. I met him through some mutual friends, and it's how they kind of do this to like get me connected to different people that are connected to all of this. It's like they'll introduce me. He was like, "Oh, this is my friend here," because I was selling weed and stuff like that, and mushrooms and various other different things like that here and there a little bit. And he asked me to go kayaking with him, and I ended up going. So okay, so this was either okay, this was either in the fall. I think maybe around November or well, I don't know. Hold on, October maybe October, September or October of the same year. But I'm like second guessing it. It could have been the next. Nah, it couldn't have been that long. It couldn't have. It was like it was that same year. I'm just gonna go with that. But or hold on. No. It was 2023 when this happened. Actually, it was 2023 for sure because I was living in my new house that I live in. Um, so I ended up going kayaking with them, um, and they got me again. I I dosed again, and we went kayaking and stuff. And it's a 7 mile kayak trip. It's called Green Acres canoe rental and kayak and canoe rental. And kind of where is it? I'm trying to think of the location, but it's called Green Acres canoe rental. They did it to me when we were probably like maybe 2 miles down the river of the 7 mile trip. We took a break to smoke and just take a break or whatever. And they got me good. They use directed attention to like they'll be like, "Oh, look at those birds up there," and point to it. They'll direct your attention towards something. That's a part of it. Looking in an upward direction, I guess. I forgot to mention this too. I'm sorry. I kind of have to go back to the previous time at the Geek Out thing.
Sure.
Another way they inducted me into it this time, there was a dude there. He had a booth set up that was flying drones over the property with a camera on it, and you could put these goggles on to see, to get a view of the drone through like these goggles. And I put the goggles on. He's like, "Oh, these aren't." There was like something going wrong with them. They're like it was like static, white noise type static, And he was like, okay, tell me if you see anything in the up left hand corner. And I believe that was uh, a part of the induction because I've read about that stuff, like using like they use static and stuff, and also it was like he's like, tell me if you see something in the upper left hand corner. So I naturally had to look upwards with my eyes, which is just based upon my brief research. It's like it triggers or accesses different parts of the subconscious or something, or I can't remember exactly, but something like that. I just wanted to add that part in. But the on the canoe trip, yeah, they did it to me, and I ended up just I actually picked up my phone and acted like I was calling somebody this time, and I could tell they were like, "Oh shit," like, "Oh, he's calling somebody," and when it first kicked in though, I was like, "Damn, you guys hypnotized me? Are you gonna kill me out here or what?" Completely terrified, you know. It was me, Michael Murkowski, and then his other friend who he said was 21 or something, but this dude was like in his 30s for sure. He's much older than 21. He had to be. Um, and like right before it kicked in on this trip, he was like, okay, we're the we are the we probably the last wave of people, or like a couple people passed by on canoes when we were like on the bank taking a break. He's like, that's probably the last wave of people to come down today. But anyways, it kicked in. They were like clowning me too. They're like mocking me and stuff. Like when I asked them if they're gonna kill me, and so oh, man, I can't stand these people. But um, yeah, the another group of people, like these real hippie looking people with a big pit bull, like came right after the other people that were supposed to be the last wave of people that were coming down, and I held my ground for a little bit. There's like 6 or 7 of these people, and they're all looking, all staring straight at me, and uh, I was like acting like I was calling somebody because I didn't really know who to call at that point. Honestly, I was just like terrified, and I was just picking up my phone because I know that's a good idea if you're in a bad situation, you can at least pretend like you're talking to somebody on the phone, and that can actually get you out of a lot of stuff. Um, but I ended up just running. I like lost my shoes, I lost my phone, I left my canoe there or my kayak. Um, I left my backpack. I ended up running through this cornfield. My whole body got sliced up from like the corn from the corn stalks, and um I don't know how far I walked, probably 10 miles or something until I was able to make it barefoot, shirtless, just a pair of shorts to this gas station. And several hours later, probably 3 or 4 hours later, maybe longer, I was walking for a long time through the woods, didn't know which direction to go, didn't know which direction the road was or anything. And but I eventually made it. I made it back and ended up going to a Shell station, and the kid inside let me use the phone, and I called my parents up. But before they got there, like there was this big dude who came walking up, had all these type of demonic looking tattoos on him, which is whatever. It doesn't matter. Like people can have that. Uh, he started talking to me about, or well, I think what did I say? I was like, oh yeah, some people are trying to kill me, and I can't remember. Yeah, I was like, some people are trying to kill me. I can't remember what else I explained to him, but eventually he asked me to go for a walk. He's like, you want to go for a walk with me? I was like, no. I had no shoes on. I'm all cut up, I'm like muddy and stuff, and obviously traumatized. And he was like doing my. They direct your attention. He was like, "Oh, look over there. You see Rudolph." I told him I had taken the acid, and he's like, "Look over there. It's Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer behind that fence." Like it's like directed attention and like influencing you to use your imagination to get into an imaginary state to imagine something, that's not there. Um, and yeah, he was definitely a part of it too. Very, very crazy, very scary looking dude, very big dude. Um, and after that, I ended up going to rehab because I in first grade I was prescribed to Ritalin. So I was on Ritalin and Concerta and Adderall like throughout from first grade pretty much to like high school. And they cut me off of it, I guess. I stopped taking it, but I still would take it though, like it's addictive, I guess you could say. Well, it is for sure, but um yeah, I mean I have a long kind of drug history of drug use, but at that point I was just like sick and tired of it and stuff, and I wanted to change. And I wanted to go I was like I want to go to rehab. And also too, like I was afraid at that point. They knew where my house was because that Mike guy, he was like one of the only people who knew where I lived at that point after I moved to a new house. And at that point I was like scared. I was like scared for my safety quite a bit. I thought they were gonna try to break into my house, do a home invasion or something. Because even before that, like I had another dude, Casey, in there too. I brought him in. He's all a part of it too. And um he's got like a Freemason looking tattoo on his leg too, the checkerboards and stuff. But he was in my house one day and he's like looking around. He's like looking around my house all weird. I didn't say anything. I was just observing him. But he was like looking at my entrances and exits and stuff like that, my windows, and like looking to like just looking around like he shouldn't really do in somebody's house. I think. But I was just scared at that point. So, anyways, I went to rehab, residential rehab, and what's crazy about this too, I accepted a lot of this as my karma. A lot of the stuff that happened to me, and I said it to them a long time ago when I was still with Claudia, because I knew that they were doing this stuff to punish me for whatever reason. And I accepted it as my karma. I was like, okay, yeah, I've done some stuff that I probably haven't paid for yet, so I'm just accepting this. Like, it is what it is. And but another person involved that was a friend, Adam. It was like the idea to go to rehab. It was like voluntary, but it was also kind of implanted and suggested, not directly, but like indirectly suggested, because by multiple different people actually. But I ended up going, and I believe that this it's called Ohio Community Health on Sheraton Lane, and I believe they're using this as like a recruitment center. Honestly, multiple of the staff members there and the counselors drop subliminals towards me. Um, like the first day, also too, like the second time at Geek Out festival where I was hypnotized too. The next day I was like, okay, they're using NLP too, which I knew a little bit about, but not a lot. But I knew enough to realize that that's what was involved with some of this. Um, uh, but yeah, one of the first exercises we did in the rehab was about NLP, and around that same time too, we were like went around in a circle, all the inpatients or yeah, I don't know what to call it, but yeah, the people in the inpatient program, um, like at or I think it was just me actually. I was like, or well, I think I just said as we went around the circle and they said, "What do you want to get out of this?" I said more to get in tune with stuff I'm passionate about, and he's like, "What are you passionate about?" And I was like making music, which is just one thing. I do love making music, and he said something, and then he's like something about building a cult following, and at that point I know I had already realized that I was being followed and stuff too, and the gang stalking. Um, so there's that, yeah, like the cult following, they're following me around. It's like a thing that you can interpret two different ways. Kind of like the when the when Claudia told me I like to or I compartmentalize my friends. Um, there's countless instances in there where they're dropping subliminals. I think I stayed in there for maybe close to 2 weeks, about 2 weeks, I think. And then I just left because I realized what was going on. And it's crazy. It's like it's I went to Jacksonville, Florida, and well, in that like before that, let me say that just I was thinking about moving from Cincinnati. And at first I was like, I'm gonna go somewhere in the South, like Atlanta or something. But my dad was like, you should go to Jacksonville, Florida. I'm like, huh? Because because maybe like 2 or 3 months before that, Michael Murkowski, the guy who I went kayaking with, who hypnotized me, he said he was in Jacksonville, Florida. He told me he was in Jacksonville doing something. I can't remember what, but and then I was like pretty random to suggest of my father, like I want to go to Atlanta, I think maybe somewhere in the South, um, and just try to start new somewhere and get away from these people. And I ended up going to Jacksonville. I don't know, like, yeah, I was like, ah, man, I knew better. I knew better, but I still went. And this is gonna sound crazy. Like, I'm sure this is probably gonna sound really crazy, but I don't care. I really don't. Um, yeah, like there was I stayed in a hotel for a couple weeks. I ended up finding a job. Well, I ended up bumping into a guy randomly in the street who it was like he was just in the middle of a crosswalk sitting on his mountain bike. I was just walking from my hotel one day, just walking up the street, and he was just there, just like kind of staring off into space. And I asked him about some weed, because he looked like he probably might know where to get some, and I wanted to smoke. So he helped me out with that, and he asked me, he's like, "Do you need a job?" I was like, "Yeah, it's funny you ask. Actually, I'm actually here looking for a job, so I can maybe try to start over here." I didn't tell any of these people what was going on though, but uh, his name was Ozzy, and the restaurant I ended up working at was BB's restaurant, and yeah, like at least 3 or 4 people, at least 3 or 4 people that work there were dropping subliminals and stuff too. Like, and not only that. So let me rewind a little bit. So like literally the first day I got there. So my dad, he booked the hotel for me because that he booked a certain hotel for me. I didn't even do it myself, and it was right by this restaurant. And the first day, yeah, literally the first day, the next morning, I got there at night. So the next morning, I'm looking up for places to eat breakfast and stuff, and I chose this one, or well, I looked at this one on Google, and I think I just headed up that direction, but I was undecided about it. And sorry, there was like an abandoned building right over by there, kind of, and in big white letters, like hand painted onto the front of this abandoned building, it said, "We are gonna find you." And it was like right by this place called it was right by the breakfast spot I had originally looked at but was still undecided about. It was called Sarah's Bakery, I think, something like that. Sarah's Breakfast Bakery, something like that. And but as soon as I went in, they had all this witchcraft stuff on the wall, and like Grateful Dead stuff and witchcraft stuff, and yeah, it's like they're somehow using the law of attraction to get me to go places, but yeah, I don't. And at the restaurant, yeah, they're like dropping subliminals and stuff, and I ended up having a panic attack in there when I realized what was happening, and I quit on the spot. I was like, no, I'm out. I didn't tell them why, but I mean they knew. I'm trying to think where to go from here.
So that wasn't even that long ago. So where does that leave you now? And like, why did you decide that you wanted to speak out about this?
Honestly, for my safety, honestly, for my safety, and to help others too. If my voice can help others, I would be thrilled. Like that would be awesome. Um, and you know, if I could like kind of expose these people too, that'd be great. But I don't know if that's really wise to want to do that or not. But it is what it is, you know, because it's not really like I can really prove any of this or like press criminal charges, possibly with some of the abuse stuff, but I don't know. I'm not really worried about that so much. I mean, that would be cool. Like if I find out I was illegally adopted or something, or if I'm from a different family, I would totally press criminal charges on them. But yeah, that's basically it. That's basically why I wanted to speak out about this.
And what about the people around you? Is there anybody else who has sort of like broken out of the matrix a little bit like you? Have you been really alone with this? Does anybody know that you're like privy to knowing what's going on, or have you been sort of concealing that?
Oh no, they know that I know. They know that I know for sure. They've been, like I said, they've been hacking every device that I've had. So they definitely know, and I can just tell from their energy when I'm around them. They know because they're nervous. I got them nervous. I'm literally just one man, you know, and this is probably a network of several hundred people, if not more. Because it's not only from Jacksonville, like, and also too, when I got back from Jacksonville, when I got my dad picked me up from the Greyhound station, and like 2 blocks from my house or from their home. This truck gets in front of us that looked like a high level Freemason. All the he had all the insignia on his truck. He had the insignia of the Royal Archmasons that I had to look up. I didn't know what it was, but he also had the classical Freemason symbol there on the back of his truck. He looked like a very high level Mason for sure. Maybe not, I don't know, but he's really into it. Any at the very least, he's like an enthusiast at the very least. And but I would imagine like the Royal Arch is like it's so I think it's like a higher degree or no, something like that. But and my dad plays completely dumb. He's like, I don't know anything about Freemasons, and but literally, like the neighborhood he's from is completely full of them. There's lodges everywhere. Like, how are you gonna not know? You know what I mean?
And he took you to a lodge.
Yeah, well, the Knights of Columbus, yeah, yeah, the Knights of Columbus. So a little different, but I guess they're probably like a, a lot of these groups just get infiltrated, and they use them as a cover, as a front. So they're doing a number of different atrocities behind these type of legitimate looking organizations or fraternal orders or whatever. But yeah, it's like uh it's been a very, very elaborate ritual. And also too, I have the so when I was in Seattle too, I moved to Seattle in 2012, in March 2012, and I lived there until about, what was it, like October of 2016. Yeah, it was about October 2016. I lived there, and there was a lot that went on there. Like, but I know I touched on some of it already. But anyways, like my friend Lee, we call him Three Fingered Lee. He invited me to move out there because I tried to get him to send me some seeds when he was living in like Oakland and Berkeley, California. But he ended up he never sent the seeds. He like pocketed my money. He's like said something. He wasn't able to do it for some reason. But I was like, I called him. He's like, I'm trying to get somebody to come out here and do that with me, cultivate. And I was like, yeah, I want to. Yeah, I would love to. And I went out there, and when I got off the bus, well, anyway, another thing, on my way out there, there was a bus transfer in either like North Dakota or Montana or somewhere around in that area. And there was my friend Lee, he's a graffiti writer. He writes The Fly, or he used to, or he might still. He wrote The Fly. In like the window seat I got into, it had his tag like etched into the metal windowsill there. It's like, really, what are the odds? It's just like too many times stuff like this has happened. That it's just like uh, it's like some kind of, I don't know. Like I think I take like signs like that. Maybe I'm on the right path or something. But obviously, I was on the path that they wanted me to be on in hindsight. But when I got off the bus, I was met by him and his friend Zeke Swango, who I'd never met before that. And Zeke, I told you, I think earlier, he was like involved with the OTO. He was an initiate within that at the Horizon Lodge in Seattle, the Horizon Ordo Templi Orientis Lodge. And really, really into like Crowley magic, other forms like chaos magic, all types of different stuff. And apparently his great grandfather, I think, or his grandfather, I think his great grandfather or grandfather was a part of like the Elks or the Moose, the Elks or the Mooses or something like that, another type of lodge. But he was also a very high level Navy officer too, of some sort. And he's also the one who has the uh, uncle who was the serial killer too. Michael Swango was his name, and he showed me letters from him and stuff. He was in communication with him, and his was like the same MO, poisoning people in hospitals, just like the other guy. I think people will be able to see how like this really can't be. I mean, it can't be coincidence. You know what I mean? It's just too many different things that connect. And he was also okay. So yeah, he was the one who deleted his profile like right when I discovered the Horus Mat Lodge, which is like an offshoot of the OTO. There was another girl named Lauren too that I would hang out with and spend time together and whatnot. And she let me borrow this book. I guess like we had a lot of different common interests, like mushroom hunting and stuff like that, shamanism and different types of stuff like that, plant medicines. And she would always wear this feather in her hair up the back of her head, just like Ma'at did, which is the Egyptian goddess of justice and other stuff. She let me borrow this book though. It's called Kanaim, or it's called, what is it called? Dark Shamans. The It was based upon uh these people in Ecuador, I think. I think it's Ecuador or Bolivia, somewhere down in there. But there are these type of shamans, these dark shamans that stalk people around for years. They'll stalk people and terrorize them and like slowly terrorize them basically, and eventually they kill them. And they cannibalize them too. They'll bury the body with, or they'll like take an iguana tail and do something with like the rectum and like stuff a bunch of herbs inside the human body, and it creates some type of spiritually uplifting substance of some sort. When you cannibalize the person after putting these herbs into them, it's supposed to lift your spirit up high or something like that. From what, I didn't read the whole book, but it's like they're gang stalking almost, like the people in Bolivia. It's like an ancient practice. um and also too, like Zeke brought a book binding to me, like he was wanting to get into book binding. And then eventually I found one of his he's like a creative writer. He's like a pretty good writer. But like I found one of his online things, and like the at the top it had an excerpt from the Kanaima book about the cannibalism. And also too, in like within the body of the text of his little essay or whatever it was, yeah, it talked about binding books in human skin. So, and then there's like been other people who brought up book binding to me and like working at book binderies. So that's also led me to believe that is a part of their intentions too. It's like use my skin or something for to make a book, some kind of black magic book probably. I think where else to go from here. I'm sorry, it's just so much.
Oh no,
It's
you're
really
good. I know we could probably talk. I feel like with all these stories, there's too much to cover for like one interview. There's just so much, and
right.
everything that you're sharing, it really does all go together. You see how like these connections happen, just like the, connect the dots game whenever you were young. instances might
Exactly.
not make sense when you look at them separately, but whenever you try to look for connections or relationships between this event and that event, this person, that person, this location, this person, whatever it is, you start to realize that there is a network, and it's a very intelligent network that's operating around you, unbeknownst to you. So
Yep.
it's incredible how you've been able to sort of like reverse engineer your past and make those connections, because I think it flies under the radar a lot of times for people, and then they end up discrediting themselves. They feel like something's wrong, but they don't investigate it enough to like validate themselves. And I feel like you've been on a quest of validation where something's wrong. You don't have every single memory. There's still spots I know that you mentioned that are still some lost time and things that you don't remember, but the stuff that you do remember constructs a very intelligent network that's been operating around you, and it does look very obvious when you look at all these events and people and you think, how couldn't it be connected? So I really appreciate you sharing. And there's a lot of people dealing with the targeted individual side. I always say like a survivor never really gets free. Like even when you do, there's opposition that wants to lure you back in, even if it's not constantly like death threats and stuff or like coming after your life. Like there's people put in your place, or in your way, in your path. There's opportunities that open up that seem really synchronistic, but they're actually synchronistic, like you said, in a very malicious way almost, and like a controlling way and intentional way, and so you can see how these things like set a person up to like have that fishing line cast out, and then they do everything to get you to take the bait, and to think that you found whatever was on, the food that's floating there, when in reality it was planted there for you to find. So this has been really awesome. Like, I mean, not awesome in a fact that I'm happy you're going through it, but like you're shining a light on something that a lot of people all over the world are going through, and they are really struggling with trying to make sense of it, and the fact that you were able to walk us through your process, I think is good too. That way people can start doing that with their own life. If they suspect something, they can start investigating, being their own private investigator and saying, okay, this event was really weird, or this is weird that my parents did this. What was the relationship between that and like something else, or somebody else, So I really
Hmm.
appreciate you sharing, and wanted to see, is there anything, and you're always more than welcome to come back, of course, but is there anything that was on your heart to cover today in this episode that we didn't get to cover yet? Or anything that you
Um,
wanted to close with or say to people?
um, I just want to. Well, there's so much more I can add. I might want to come back eventually and do it again in a more organized type of way. Like I might want to sit down and try to write things down first instead of just like jumping all around all over the place. But I feel like I did a decent job just going off the top of my head. But
You
obviously
did.
it's very disorganized. But I don't think it's terrible. But no, I really appreciate it for you having me on, and I just want to say to people, don't give up. Don't let them overpower you. Or, I mean, it does happen, but I was really close to killing myself, really, really close. And that's another thing that I believe has been programmed into me is the suicide. Um, because like so many other people brought it up to me. So many like several other people have brought up Satanism. Like the lady that my brother ended up um dating for several years used to live directly across from my grandma on my mother's side. um Also too, a dude named Cameron I met on the street one day, just so happens to be the nephew of my mom's childhood friend. It's just not random at all, and they're all like, yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, I just want to tell people, just like I would tell people, just don't give up. And like it's really like uh there could be like miracles that come out of this. At one point I'm just like accepted that they're probably going to get me at some point if they want to, and they still can. But at this point it's just going to make me a martyr. So if that's if that's what's in the script, and I mean it's not the worst thing, I guess. But yeah, I want to live a full life and just like a peaceful quiet life somewhere, and um just be left alone and um, contribute and contribute in a positive way to the rest of society. I've been withdrawn most of my life, and I have done things like charity stuff, but I need to do more of that. I think to fully offset some of the guilt and stuff I still feel, even though have like come to terms with most of it, because I know like, and it's like they were shaming me for some of the stuff that I did, but this the only reason I did that stuff is because what they did to me. You know what I mean? Obviously, like I'm still able to make my own decisions. I think, anyways, free will is debatable, honestly, but I don't think they would want me talking to you or like, you know what I mean? And like I've talked to many different people on through YouTube and stuff, and so I feel like I do at least have somewhat of free will, but that stuff that I did in my past that was just really ugly and really disgusting. It is what it is, you know. I'm a completely different person now, and it's just part of my story. And I thought it would, I just wanted to be transparent and authentic about everything. There's stuff that I haven't added, like quite a bit, but that's the most of it, really. Uh,
Well, you did great, and it's an honor to hear your story and, for you to choose here to share it for the first time and hopefully not the last time. And I ask everybody to pray over you that you continue getting the guidance that you need, having discernment, and that whatever information from your memories you need to recall, that it, eventually surfaces for you to help continue building your own puzzle. You're contributing a puzzle piece, and hopefully that can be ongoing where you're continuing to learn and discover new things and, build a fuller picture, if not for the rest of the world, just for you, to have some of your questions answered and to fill in some of those gaps. But it's really important to share a testimony, and it does offer a level of safety for the person speaking out, even though it seems counterintuitive. They don't want you speaking out, like you said. They don't want your testimony on record somewhere. They don't want people to hear it. But
right.
what people do then, if anything does happen, God forbid, in any small or big way against you, you have people that can vouch for something being wrong or off because you have your story out there. So I appreciate you
Definitely.
coming on and sharing. And I wanted to ask if there's anybody listening that really wants to get in touch with you. Of course, they can always email me and I can connect them with you. But do you have a direct line of communication at all that if somebody wanted to reach out, they could?
I mean, I have a Facebook page. It's just under Éraic Brown, Cincinnati, Ohio. Um, the picture is like a homunculus. I don't know if you know what that is. Oh, you do?
Yep.
Most men, well, if people don't, it's like a figure with like uh uh really big hands. And I chose that because like I've like had body dysmorphia for a long time. I always felt like my hands were too big for my body, and I recently found out what like a homunculus was, so I looked it up and I was like, "Oh, that's would be a perfect picture for me." But yeah,
Brilliant.
it's my Facebook.
Okay, well, if you want to send me the link, I don't know if we're connected on Facebook, but I'm assuming there's probably a lot of Éraic Brown. So if you want to send me
Yeah,
like
yeah.
a screenshot or send me the
I
link.
sent you a friend request,
Oh, perfect.
but
Okay.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, I'll find you on there
Pretty
then
just
and
recently,
we
just
can.
in like the past week or so.
Okay.
But yeah, yeah, if you want to link with me on there, that's cool. Well, actually, I don't. Well, actually, it's cool if people want to message me through there. I don't really care. They hack all my stuff. I don't really care at this point because they know that I know, and they know that I've been telling other people. So it is what it is.
Perfect. So I'll link that in the show notes. That way, if people want to connect with you and reach out, if they have any puzzle pieces, or even if you've provided a puzzle piece and they want to talk to you about it, I always encourage people to connect. It always helps whenever we're building communities. That way, we're not isolated and alone. And it always helps to have corroboration. And who knows, maybe you sharing your testimony, maybe there'll be somebody else that sees this in Cincinnati and says, "Oh my gosh, he went through something I did," or like I have information on these family members or acquaintances or associations or these events that you went to, festivals. So you
Hmm.
never know too what can happen as a result of putting your testimony out, that it might spark something from somebody on the other side who is geographically close to you. So I would
Yeah.
ask if anybody has any information, reach out, connect with Éraic. And again, you can always go through me too, and I can help make that connection. Or if for whatever reason the link doesn't work, whatever it is, I always encourage people to support survivors and whistleblowers coming forward and help them, help support them. And Éraic, it's really awesome having you on. I really appreciate you again coming on and having the courage to share for the first time today.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate you and what you're doing for everybody out here. It's pretty major. And it feels really crazy. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. It feels crazy to tell a story to somebody just like as because I've shared a lot with some people, but not 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 close to everything. So yeah, it feels pretty cool actually.
It is really cool. Like it's so neat. This is information that you shouldn't know about to share, and then it's also information we're not supposed to be hearing from you. So that's why
Yeah.
I call survivors walking miracles. You guys are, and it's a miracle that we get to listen to you and to hear this information. So again, Éraic, thank you. And I thank everybody for listening. Like I said, I'll have Éric's contact info. His Facebook will be in the show notes. I'll have my information in the show notes if you guys would care to connect too. And please reach out to Éraic, go support him and DM him, especially if you guys are in the Cincinnati area, Ohio, Toledo, any of the areas that he mentioned. Feel free to reach out and provide any puzzle pieces of your own. And hopefully somebody on the other end also was validated, whether you live geographically close to the Ohio area or just if in your area or in your own testimony, you've gone through similar things that Éraic has with this, targeting B2K, Freemasonry, Monarch, any of that. It's so validating to hear these stories and all the overlaps that they have throughout other survivor testimonies. So you guys, I'm so grateful for you. Thank you guys for listening, for sticking with us, for supporting us. I can't wait to see you guys next time. God bless you all, and we will see ya.